The Nashville Predators had some unexpected success this season, but how did Colton Sissons and Mark Jankowski impact the team in 2023-2024? We're going to award them their season superlatives on today's Locked On Predators podcast.
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Predators podcast, and thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We are your free daily Nashville Predators podcast. We're a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to kick off this episode with a shout out to our Locked On Pred heads. Those are our everyday listeners who tune in to talk Nashville Predators hockey with us. We appreciate your support, and we love that we get to spend just a little bit of your day with you. I'm Ann Kimmel. I am a writer at Penalty Box Radio, and I have a partner in crime.
You do. I'm Emma Lingen, and I'm the Predators site editor and reporter for the Hockey News.
On today's show, Emma and I are going to continue our season superlatives. We have talked about Andrew Brunette. We've talked about Barry Trotz. We've talked about our top line players, our fourth line players. But now Emma and I are going in the weeds. We are going to take a closer look at what we call a very mushy middle six. So we're going to kick it off talking about the seasons of Colton Sissons and Mark Jankowski. We're going to give them their season superlatives and talk about what we want to see more of from these two, quote, middle-aged centers next season. Before we dive into all that, do want to let you know today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. There is no I in team, but there is one in Indeed, and that's the hiring platform you need to build yours. Start hiring now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Well, Emma, it has been an up and down season when we look at the Nashville Predators and kind of that middle six roster. There have been all sorts of changes in there, with the trade deadline and adding a couple pieces, but also just who's in the lineup, who's not in the lineup. It's been a little bit of a hot mess in that middle six for the Nashville Predators. And what is so frustrating, I feel like, as we watch these postseason games, you so need your middle six. It's so important.
Yeah, especially when you've got, Vancouver's 8-foot tall defenseman shutting down your top line and then no one else is scoring, then yeah, you would really like those guys to show up.
Yeah, a little bit of something from the middle six would be fantastic. And, some of them I think have had pretty good seasons. Some of them, some of them really struggled. And we're going to cover that on another upcoming episode too. But today we're going to talk about Colton Sissons and Mark Jankowski. We're going to kick it off with Colton Sissons. Sissons had an 81 game season, only missed one game, 15 goals, 20 assists, 35 points. This was a career season in a lot of aspects for Colton Sissons. So Emma, what season superlative do you award to Colton Sissons?
So I would say, because of everything you just mentioned, like career year, but I feel like we still never hear about him. I would say Colton Sissons is like most likely to be a secret agent. Like
Love
he
that.
is so, like, his personality fits it too. Like he's so stoic, like very stone face, and he like he's very quiet, soft spoken. He has like a dry sense of humor, but it's also like the way that he gets so underrated, I think, as a two-way player, and we've really seen his offensive game take off this year. My biggest gripe about this season, though, was that he did not set a new career high in goals. He got to 15, which was his career high that he set in 2018-19. And I'm like, oh, come on. And he just sat at that 15.
Come on, Colton.
I'm like, it's a career season in points, which is fantastic. Love it for him. But he's just such an underrated guy, I think, in the media, and he really does fly under the radar very well. Although it was interesting when Jason Zucker came and I asked him about like what's it like playing on a line with Colton Sissons, because he's kind of underrated, and he kind of looked at me and he's like, maybe to you guys, like maybe in the media he's underrated, but like people in the league, like players know him, they know who he is, and it's like that's a guy that you don't want to match up against. And so I think that is telling. At least he is getting, recognition somewhere. But yeah, like very underrated, very under the radar, but like one of the best like glue guys you could have
Yes.
on a team.
Yeah. When I look at Colton Sissons, not just this season, but just in general with the Nashville Predators, but we can talk specifically about this season. For me, his superlative is most likely to be a human Swiss Army knife. Because there is nothing Colton Sissons can't do. I feel like he is one of those guys where Andrew Brunette could say, man, we are in a pickle. We need somebody to do this. Hey, Colton, can you come do this? Or, hey, we need to make an adjustment. What's the best person to go with the flow on that and make the most of it? Colton Sissons. Like, I call him to my husband, and I say this with love and zero judgment. So take it in the spirit of love. But I refer to Colton Sissons as the poor man's Ryan O'Reilly because he does everything. He does everything.
He does. And he makes guys better around him. Like, why do you think, to your point, like he's the guy that you put in a tough situation, or you need someone consistent, someone reliable? Why do you think he's the guy after the trade deadline they brought in 2 new wingers and put them on his line? That's why. And I asked Andrew Brunette about that, and he even said that. It's like, yeah, Sizzy's the guy that like he will be the glue, and he will like hold it together, and he doesn't make a lot of mistakes. He is he's good in his own zone, but he's also really reliable defensively.
Yes.
And he, obviously he doesn't get a ton of attention or recognition because he's not a volume scorer. And that's okay though. That's not his game. And I think that, if we're being honest, and I love Colton Sissons, like as a person, as a player, he is one of my favorites, and I will champion him all day. But I think we can all admit Colton Sissons is not a 2C. He's not a second line center. He had to play that role this year, like towards the end of the year and in the playoffs, because there really wasn't another option.
Yeah.
But again, that goes back to your point. You ask him to do something and he will do it. And so that's where, I feel like people might look at him and think, oh, he underperformed because you need more from your second line center. All true. But if we're being honest, he's really not. He's more of a third line center.
Yeah.
And I think that, he did his best. Like he did what he could. And I really like his game. I love the consistency in his game. I love how he's so reliable, just to anchor whatever line he's on. He is like I don't even know, like, I don't know why this analogy just came into my head. I feel like there's something way better you could come up with, but pardon my brain after this holiday weekend. He's like the Mr. Potato Head, and like you can
go with it, Emma.
You can like change out all the different pieces and stuff, but like the body, like the center remains the same. Like,
that's right.
Again, do you see where I'm going with this?
I do. You can put a mustache on him. You can put a hat on him. You can put glasses on him, but he's still Mr. Potato Head.
And like you could change out the hands or put the hands in different places, and like he's still gonna be the same. Like he is gonna be him, and you can count on him as an anchor, and he's still gonna hold all those pieces together, no matter where they are or what they are.
I feel like we just gave Colton Sissons a new nickname that he will want literally zero part of.
Oh, he will want no part of it. Oh my gosh.
It is a great analogy because you have at Colton Sissons' core a player who can do
a potato.
A potato. You have at Colton Sissons' core a potato.
At the end.
Make a ton of things out of a potato.
Exactly. No, I think my point is that like you have all these interchangeable parts that you can take out and you can put them in different places or have them do like doing different things, but he is still going to hold them all together, and
There
he's
you
going to
go.
be the nucleus of that. So
There you go. You heard it here first, folks.
thank you for humoring me. I'm sure had I had time, well, not that I didn't have time, had I used my time better, I could have come up with a better
No,
analogy.
I think that is inspiring.
Thank you
I
so
think it's
much.
inspiring.
Thank you.
So we look at Colton Sissons' stats. You talked about it, tied his career high in goals. Oh my gosh, Colton Sissons, you were right there. But he had a career high in assists, a career high in points. He had the most ice time, average ice time of his career, which I thought was great. He also took more shots this season than he has in any other season. But I love this. Colton Sissons plays on the power play. He plays on the penalty kill. He can play any position that you put him in. There is really not much Colton Sissons can't do. And the other thing is that he is reliable. There are very few moments where you look back at a game this season, and really you could say this for a stretch of Colton Sissons' career. There are very few moments where you look and you go, man, Colton Sissons made a big mistake, because he just doesn't, he just knows what to do. And like you said, he may not be your 2C guy, but he knows what to do, and he does what the team needs. He does it well.
Yeah. I think that he, it's funny that you brought up you can't look at things and say, oh, he made a mistake. People love in that, what was it, game 4 against Vancouver, when he missed the wide open net. And people, I got so mad because everyone was like, he should have had that and they would have won. No, how about they score more goals like earlier, and then we wouldn't have been in this situation. Like,
that's right.
Well, and it all be on him.
Yeah. And if you look at that play, he was covered. It was a really bad angle shot. I think he was maybe even on his backhand. Like, y'all cut.
He was on his backhand. Yeah.
So y'all just, I'm going to need you to step back.
Yeah. Like, he did what he could. He tried.
That's right. Leave Mr. Potato Head
alone. Great.
I love it.
Leave,
so much.
Leave Mr. Potato Head alone.
Come on. Oh gosh. Coming up, we're going to talk about some other contributions from Colton Sissons. We're also going to talk about what we would love to see from him next season. And of course, we are going to talk about Mark Jankowski and how he performed with the Nashville Predators in his time in Nashville. First, want to let you know today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. There is no I in team, but there is one in Indeed, and that is the hiring platform you need to build yours. When you're hiring, you need Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. They streamline hiring with powerful tools that find you matched candidates. With Instant Match, over 80% of employers get quality candidates whose resume on Indeed matches their job description the moment they sponsor a job, according to US Indeed data. So join more than 3 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. You can start hiring right now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/lockedon. Offer good for a limited time. Again, claim your $75 credit now at Indeed.com/lockedon. Again, that's Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. You need to hire? You need Indeed. All right, Emma and I are talking about Colton, Mr. Potato Head Sissons, and the career that he has had. I'm loving it. Like, who would want to even be called Big Sexy when you can have Mr. Potato Head?
Right.
For real. Yeah.
Yeah. And we're going to make Michael McCarron jealous.
So jealous. Yes. So Colton Sissons, again, career year in so many stats. This is somebody, too, that I think we have to give credit to when it comes to off ice, because when you think about leadership with this Nashville Predators team, when Barry Trotz was talking about this reset, he would mention players like Roman Josi and Philip Forsberg, and then brought in Ryan O'Reilly and Gustav Nyquist. But I don't think you can underestimate the importance in the locker room and when it comes to setting culture of somebody like Colton Sissons. Remember, this is a homegrown guy, y'all. Like, He's been ours since the get-go. The Predators drafted him in the second round. I think it was 2012, so like several years ago. But this is a homegrown guy who gets it. And I feel like this has been a year where Colton Sissons has shown his value off the ice as well as on the ice.
Yeah, it's something that I had seen, previously with traveling with the team and just being around them all the time, is that they would have regularly, maybe kind of impromptu like leadership meetings, and not necessarily about serious things, but like we'd be on the plane coming back from a game and it would be like, okay, we need to do a quick leadership meeting to decide if we're going to like move back the practice time tomorrow or something like that. And it's like,
Right.
and it would be your captain, your alternate captains. Colton Sissons was always in those meetings, even when he wasn't wearing an A. Like he
Yep.
was always part of that leadership group. Like even if he wasn't formally part of it, he is the team's representative on the for the Players Association.
Love that.
So he is, he's very involved and very plugged in that way too, and he's definitely like, he's maybe not the first name that comes to mind when you think of like leaders on the team, like you said, but because he's not a loud guy. Again, secret
No.
agent Mr. Potato Head.
Under the radar potato head.
Yeah. So yeah, he's just not the most like the loudest guy in the room, but I think there's a lot to be said for like quiet leadership. And I think that he brings that. And I think that, he leads in other ways too. I mean, I remember earlier, when Cody Glass started playing his best hockey of the season, he was on the wing with Colton Sissons as
Come
his
on.
center. And I talked to Andrew Brunette about that and was kind of expecting like a pretty generic answer, like, yeah, Colton's been in the league a long time, figured pair him with someone who has less experience, whatever. But he went into great detail about like, yeah, Colton has taken him. He's like a big brother to him. Like he protects him in situations. He stands up for him. He creates plays for him. Like he is the safety net. Brunette called him like Colton Sissons is your safety net, especially for a guy like Cody Glass. That's just invaluable.
Yes. Yeah. And when we look ahead to next season, I feel like Colton Sissons is one of those players that, again, under the radar is going to be huge for the Predators taking their next step. I love what you're talking about when it comes to Cody Glass, because when I think of what do you need from Colton Sissons, I think Cody Glass's season next year is going to be extremely important. And, we'll get into lots more detail when we do his season superlative when it comes to Cody Glass. But you look at Colton Sissons and you think, okay, Colton Sissons is going to help crack open what is there with Cody Glass when Cody Glass is healthy and when he is playing with confidence. And you can do that better. You can play with more confidence on a line with Colton Sissons. Or if you are looking at, hey, who are these young guys in Milwaukee that may get a shot in Nashville? Colton Sissons is a guy that you could put with, a young guy. If Juuso Parssinen gets a chance, if Phil Tomasino has earned enough from Andrew Brunette, like that's where Colton Sissons' value is. It's not just what does he do, it is what does he get out of the people who are with him, and that is invaluable, especially where the team is at right now as a franchise. Like this is huge. So for me, I really am interested to see how does Andrew Brunette use what he has in Colton Sissons, not just to get the most out of Colton Sissons, because you're going to get what you get from him. He's reliable, but what are you going to get from other players through him?
And that's such it's an underrated, maybe undervalued skill because it's not really quantifiable. But I mean,
Right.
when I think of guys who, like, to me, the consummate example of a player who makes the guys around him better, I think of Sidney Crosby. And now I am not saying that Colton Sissons is Sidney Crosby, but because he's not the same type of player, he's not a goal scorer. That's okay. But in that one regard, I think that they can be talked about in the same breath as far as how they bring the most out of the guys that they play with, and the guys who play with them get better because of it. And I think that is such a valuable asset that Colton Sissons brings to this team.
Yeah, I would agree with you. This is a guy going forward again, and it's so under the radar. Nationally, this is not a name in the national media that you ever hear, but I think Nashville Predators fans, and like I said, he's been with the team for forever, but you go back to like that Stanley Cup run with Colton Sissons. This is a guy who's just steps up, who knows what it takes and who can get the best out of other people. And like you said, not quantifiable, but really invaluable when it comes to putting this team together and, the steps the team is going to need to make to get to where, Barry Trotz and Andrew Brunette wants them to go. Yeah. I agree with you too. He is one of my favorite ones to talk to. Like you said, like quiet, but tons of great insight from Colton Sissons when you get a chance to talk to him about what's going on with the team or, what needs to change and all that. He is on my short list of players that I really like to get information from and perspective from. He's really terrific.
Yeah, very insightful and has a really healthy perspective on a lot
Yeah.
of things. And he'll always give you good answers.
Yep. Coming up, we are going to talk about Mark Jankowski. Didn't play nearly as many games as Colton Sissons did, but how valuable was he to the Nashville Predators, especially in a little bit of a mushy middle? All right, Emma, Mark Jankowski didn't play 81 games this season like Colton Sissons did. He did play 32 games, 7 goals, 8 assists. He had, of course, 15 points if you do the math, which we're mathing. It's after the holiday weekend. We're back to mathing. Had 1 shorthanded goal, plus 11 in plus minus, which I know people have big feelings. It's not Big Feelings Friday, but people have big feelings about plus minus. But, plus 11, very good two-way player. He came up for 2 games in December from Milwaukee, but then joined the team full time. God bless. 2 games before the 18-game point streak. Bless his heart. Like, hey, here's a game. And then now, hey, why don't you play Dallas and lose 9-2? That'll feel so great. Welcome, Mark Jankowski.
Yep.
Yeah. So we're glad to have you here. Welcome to hell. What can you do? And I feel like the statistics maybe don't show what Jankowski did. This is, again, not a player that you're going to hear people talking about. But during that 18-game win streak, Mark Jankowski, 4 goals, 11 points in 18 games. So this is somebody who came up from Milwaukee and really contributed to this Predators team.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, again, he's a guy like Sissons that, he's not going to score a lot of goals for you. And so you're probably not going to hear his name that much, but he's also not going to make a ton of mistakes. Like, what you get is what you get from him. I mean, he's been in this league since I think he made his debut in 2016, but then like really full time in the league in 2017. He's a journeyman. He's played with Calgary, he's played with Pittsburgh, he's played with Buffalo, and now has landed with Nashville. And sometimes you kind of like those guys, especially as a call up player like he was this season, because you need, and last season too, because sometimes if you're in a situation where you need to call up another forward and it's like, okay, we don't really want to throw our prospect into this situation right now. Like what you just said, the 9-2 loss to Dallas, like that could ruin a prospect. I mean, like mentally, that could just be so hard for them. That's when you need a guy like Jankowski that you can call on as your next man up to be like, I got this. I've been through this. Like we can handle this. We can weather the storm and we can move forward. And so I think that he just brings a lot of valuable experience.
Yeah. One of the things that I think people wonder about looking forward with Mark Jankowski is, what is he going to be on the roster next season? And it's so interesting to me because like you talked about, this is somebody who's been around the NHL. This isn't somebody whose career has been entirely AHL and he's just now kind of getting his feet wet. At 29 years old, he has seen a lot around the league and he feels like one of those players where he's just a little bit too good to be an AHL player. Look at, you go back to his Milwaukee Admirals stats. I was looking at this the other day and it just knocks my socks off. So he finished the season with in Milwaukee, I think he played 40 games in Milwaukee, but he was 3rd in points 4th in goals on the Milwaukee Admirals team with guys who were playing, 60 some games. That's how good he was, with Milwaukee. He had 47 points in 40 games in Milwaukee. I also don't know that Mark Jankowski's ceiling is super high. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
He's
It's like
a
we said,
middle
you
six
know what
guy.
you're gonna get. He's a
100%.
perfect middle six guy. Like, you know what you're gonna get from him. Although to that end, my superlative, because we skipped over this
Oh,
part.
we did. Sorry. Yes.
My superlative would be that he was the biggest postseason surprise. And now, caveat, I'm not referring to the Predators in the playoffs. I am referring to after the Predators were out of the playoffs, but the Milwaukee Admirals were still in the Calder Cup playoffs. Mark Jankowski went back to Milwaukee, and he was like the surprise. He read the lineup card in the locker room.
The greatest. Wasn't it amazing?
Okay, but the biggest surprise to me, I have spent a lot of time around that man. I have never heard him speak at that volume ever. Like, I never, again, with the whole like, oh, you know what you're going to get from him. Like, he's really steady. I'm like, that is the most emotion and the most volume I have ever seen from it. I loved it. Don't get me wrong. I was just like, wait, like, that's him? That's Janko? Like, really? And
Yeah.
I mean, it was great, but it was great because you see like why he was so valuable in Milwaukee as a leader there, maybe like an informal leader, and probably the same in the Predators locker room too, is that he has so much experience. He's been around for so long. I also just think I thought about this. I didn't know how to turn this into a superlative, so I just didn't. But like, it's gonna come out sounding wrong, but
Well,
like,
look, we've already done Mr. Potato Head, so everything is on the
that, you
table.
know what? Yeah, I don't think this is quite as bad as that, but we'll see.
Good.
We're
That was
like,
good.
his face doesn't match his body, and what I mean is that I think look, come on this journey with me, Anne.
I'm coming with you. I'm here for it.
He has like one of the, I think, like the biggest baby face for
Does.
how large of a human he is. I mean, he's 6'4", 212 pounds. Like, he's a big dude. And if you
Mhm.
look at him from the neck down, you're like, oh, that's a really scary dude. And then you look at his face, and his smile just lights up a room. And it's like, you just want to give him a hug. It's like, he does not look scary in the face. But like, he'll be out there begging people around, and maybe I should stop talking.
No, I love it. I love it. Least likely to be scary in the face.
Yeah, Mr. Potato Head and not scary in the face.
I love it. But you are right. He
I
really
promise-
does have a baby face.
I promise I do like write words for a living. I don't think that my brain is functioning right now.
I think you are nailing it, girlfriend.
Thank you so
Nailing
much.
it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yes, but he does have a baby face somehow, and this is something that's hard to accomplish. Even with a beard, he has a baby face. Like, I don't know how to describe it, but he does.
I was just going to say that because when he gets the facial hair going, it does nothing.
Because some guys, it's like
anything.
Some guys, it's like once they shave, then it's like, oh, now you have a baby face. But with him, it's somehow he always does, and he just always like he has the biggest smile, and it just, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he's precious.
He's not mean in the face.
He's not mean in the face, and that is something to hang on to. If you are Mark Jankowski, you are not mean in the face, friend.
Yeah.
The other thing that I love, and this goes along a little bit with the baby face, there's a segue here, Emma.
Okay.
Is that Andrew Brunette referred to him as a security blanket.
Yeah.
During this season, he talked about Jankowski as a security blanket for Luke Evangelista and Tommy Novak, two players that he spent a lot of time with on the ice, because again, you've got, this guy who has seen a lot. He has played all over the league. He's 29 years old. And cool as a cucumber, Mark Jankowski on the ice. He also is very good. He's a great defensive player.
Mm-hmm.
So he kind of is the guy that covers a multitude of sins for people who may be on the ice with him as well. And I think you saw at the beginning of that line coming together of Novak and Jankowski and Evangelista. Jankowski did a lot of going and getting the puck for the guys. Now, I feel like Evangelista eventually was like, "Ooh, I want to get in on that game. That seems fun," and pick that up. But Jankowski was really kind of the guy that would kick some things off.
And that's what you need, because this was Evangelista's first playoffs in the NHL, and it's like, all right, it's going to take him a minute to get in on that. And he's absolutely security blanket. He's the security blanket. Colton Sissons is the safety net. They're all secure and safe and potato heads and
faces that are not mean.
Not mean in the face.
Not mean in the face. So when you look ahead at this roster, Emma, do you see Mark Jankowski starting the season in Nashville in October?
Right now, yes, I do. I don't know that I see him as a regular starter, to be honest with you. I think a lot is going to depend on who, if anyone, out of Milwaukee makes the roster, and who they get in trades or free agency.
Yes.
I think that could go a long way in determining. Like, there's some guys where I'm like Colton Sissons, yes, no matter who they get, he's in. Jankowski, I'm not saying he doesn't deserve to be. I'm just saying that he is that great security blanket to have for your younger guys. And he is like I said, it's probably not the position he wants to be in, but he is the perfect next man up. Like, he's the perfect guy. Like, someone goes down or someone needs a rest, or, you're in a pinch. He is the perfect guy you can call up. He's not going to get rattled. He's not going to get in his head about it. He's just going to go and play his game. So, like, he is the perfect next man up, whether that's off the bench or out of Milwaukee. I think he brings a lot of good. I think that like I said, it'll just depend on if they can maybe get some more scoring threats in free agency or trades, then that might supplant him on the roster, at least to start. But like I said, perfect next guy up.
Yes. If Mark Jankowski is your go-to guy, that is not too shabby for the Nashville Predators next season, for sure.
Yeah.
Of course, Nashville is going to need more from their middle six next season. On tomorrow's show, we're going to talk about two other players who could potentially be poised for breakout seasons. We're going to award season superlatives to Tommy Novak and Luke Evangelista and talk about their seasons on tomorrow's show. Before we wrap things up here, though, Emma, will you let everybody know where they can find you and find your work?
Yes, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram, same handle, both places, Emma_Lingen, and you can find my work at the Hockey News.
And you can find me on social media at AnnK_Mama on Ice. You can find my work at Penalty Box Radio as well. That is going to do it for today's episode of the Locked On Predators podcast. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We will be back tomorrow with an all-new episode. We'll see you then.